up against the GOSU crew. They beat you earlier on in the tournament. Do you have any words for them going into the next series?
那你们下一场又要遇到高苏 crew 了。那之前你们败给他了，在小组赛中，那现在你想对他们说什么？
是复仇的时候了。
We come back for revenge.
Short but sweet revenge they are looking for. Thank you very much for joining us.
Saji has one thing on his mind, and that is revenge. The closest series that we saw through our opening week, GOSU crew narrowly edged victory over pen and paper. And I mean, at this point, with EU getting knocked out of almost every single series, they're just losing like consistently. It's starting to look like such a like even my Europeans on the desk, they're like leaving me.
You're gonna be okay.
We started with 5 European teams here.
No, no king rules forever, my son.
Now we have 1. Where did they go? Jared, where did they go?
They lost. Pen and paper showed up. I mean, there was a lot of things that aren't going incredibly well for the Europeans so far, but Method Black is definitely the team, one of the favorite teams in here. They still have a shot.
Let's stop talking about Europe. I don't want to talk about Europe. No one wants to talk about Europe. There's barely any Europeans left in the competition anyways. Let's talk about the GOSU crew and pen and paper here, because Saji had a very clear message, as we saw in the interview of you, Elliot. He said he's out for revenge. Do you think he can get the revenge?
We've been talking about revenge matches all year long, and honestly, I feel like one of the GOSU crew's most difficult matchups in this entire tournament so far has been against pen and paper, bringing in that unholy Death Knight, sort of throwing a curveball to the GOSU crew. That being said, the GOSU crew, they've had a little bit more time to prepare this time around.
They have had more time to prepare, but they've had a lot of stuff to prepare for, right? Like we were talking about the difficult roads. Pen and paper, they seem to have every team kind of sussed out. That's what we were talking about. They bring this Chinese meta, and I mean, this was a series where, based on the last series, the GOSU crew won, but it felt like pen and paper might have had the edge, and it was just a few little mistakes from the aggression of the GOSU crew that secured them the series.
Yeah, and that's the one thing the GOSU crew really had in their favor was surprise. That's what the Outlaw Rogue brings in all of these series. Now that Saji had a chance to see it in the upper bracket, I don't think he's going to be caught as off guard as he was again, and this could spell trouble for the GOSU crew.
It could well spell trouble, and I mean, I'm almost speechless at this point. I can't believe it. Like my first year hosting BlizzCon, now we have 3 North American analysts on the desk. Europe is facing so much trouble, and North America is actually the team that came in with 3 teams into BlizzCon. In the final 4 teams, one of which will be crowned the champion. GOSU crew and Method Orange both remain here. The crowd favorites going into it. Jared, do you think there's a good chance we get that NA final?
Possibly. I think that, like I said, I think GOSU crew is going to take this series. I do. But when we were able to talk to GOSU crew back up in Burbank last week, 2 things stood out to me. They were one of the teams, we brought in a whole bunch of teams that were all worried about Turbo Cleave right from the start, that Warrior Enhanced Shaman, over and over. And they even said the Mistweaver Turbo is the one that they're most afraid of. And what did they do last round? They brought out the Mistweaver Turbo, and they did such a good job.
We're loading up into the Grand Arena, the blind pick, the compositions are locked in. It's China's #1 against the hometown favorites. It's the GOSU crew. Game 1, 1 team will be eliminated, 1 team will advance to meet Method Black.
It's an exact mirror that we saw in the upper bracket. Saji out for revenge. He took skill-capped EU's number, knocking Looney out of the competition and establishing himself as a legend here today as Pen and Paper look to make history.
Yeah, Pen and Paper moving in on Peekaboo, starting off early. Jellybean sneaking in. He's going to be looking for some crowd control onto Saji so that they can get something rolling. But early on, Pen and Paper seem to have the edge.
Danny Sinner dipping down below half with good crowd control initiated by the GOSU crew here, continuing the chain and the assault. BBCat trying his best to back Danny up. Saji now out of crowd control and ready. He's got that Ring of Peace preemptively down for a swap, knocking Peekaboo away, but those acrobatic strikes are going to be more than enough to continue the assault as Saji gets swapped to. Is he going to fall in the opening stages? Trades out the life cocoon, and he will survive, but another attack like that could cost his life. In the meantime, Pen and Paper pull the trigger. They're getting aggressive towards Peekaboo.
Yeah, full fear on Absurge. Peekaboo taking a little bit of pressure. PBCat and Danny Sinner all over him as he gets lower. Good pressure coming in from Pen and Paper. Absurge has to play catch up, but Jellybeans, he secures the full trap on Saji, but they just have no damage rolling on PBCat or Danny Sinner.
We're ready and waiting to see if the GOSU crew want to initiate another swap to Saji. He managed to make it out alive. Peekaboo goes in, he ports the swap off the grappling hook. Instant reaction time from Saji.
Saji is playing insane, and now that he's across the map, Peekaboo's not going to be able to make a swap for quite some time. Pen and Paper playing very well early on. Saji looking for potentially some crowd control onto Absurge, so Danny Sinner and PPCat can get Peekaboo down.
All right, Danny Sinner is in a 3-on-2 here against the GOSU crew, taking a ton of damage. Peekaboo continues the chain. Danny dips into dangerously low range. Saji needs to pick him up quick. Looks like he's going to connect the heals and start to stabilize Danny. Now, what is interesting right now is typically the Restoration Shaman would lead the mana in this composition, but Absurge is falling behind. Great peels by Danny during this swap to Saji once again, but they're still keeping up the heat. Saji's going to duck around the corner. Jellybeans is going to give up the chase for now and go after Danny, but this late game is going in favor for Pen and Paper.
Yeah, Pen and Paper, beautiful synergy with the defensive plays. Saji now into the full blind. He's playing Relentless. He has no way out of this. In the meantime, Danny Sinner, PPCat, they're getting aggressive on a Peekaboo. Saji into the full trap, but there's just no damage out for the GOSU crew. Danny Sinner trades out the Guy's Bound Fortitude, gets out of the stun, and now that Saji's out of crowd control, they're going to be able to top off.
Another swap over to Saji. They've got a lot of damage ready and lined up. PPCat saves the day, though. Saji needs to try and get away. They're still all over him. Jellybeans is going to pull the trigger on that coordinate assault and ramp up his damage. Saji deflects, wave the crane. Absurge needs to block. Will Jellybeans be able to stay alive? There's a lot of damage going towards him. Feign death. Absurge with some quick pick-me-ups. Saji forced to retreat back and away, but this Mistweaver play from Saji has been absolutely insane. He's just playing the class to absolute perfection. The GOSU crew making a swap to Danny. Perfect kiting chains of ice on Peekaboo, avoiding the combat, and Pen and Paper may just look to be unstoppable in this lower bracket.
Yeah, one of the changes we wanted to see from Pen and Paper was switching over to the Alliance racials. They can all play Relentless.
Oh.
Saji has the trinket if he needs it for this stun available, but another defensive fear coming in from PPCat, deflecting all of these attacks coming in from the GOSU crew. Saji ports away, rolls, gets a Soothing Mist, looking for heals, needs to top off. Ring of Peace should be enough for him to live.
Saji playing it out. Nice double cross crowd control. Absurge trinkets, drops the Spirit Link, almost going down there. Close call for the GOSU crew. Mana still in favor of Pen and Paper. It's an evenly fought fight so far. I would say that Peekaboo is falling behind, but they've got good crowd control. Danny isolated in a 3-on-1 and down to half. Saji rolling away, avoiding crowd control and desperately trying to pick up Danny, but Peekaboo moves in, secures an interrupt. If they can continue this chain off the back of this kick, Peekaboo moves over, he lands the blind, he pre-life cocoons the blind. Saji's insane.
Making plays all over the place, but Danny Sinner not out of it yet. GOSU's crew still finding damage. Saji finally casting some heals, getting him topped off. Peekaboo having to kite away just a little bit. You do not want to be exchanging with a Fury Warrior and a Death Knight for too long. The GOSU crew, they need crowd control in order to get this damage rolling. Jellybeans gets topped off. Peekaboo making a swap to Saji once again. Do they have the damage? Jellybeans there to back him up. Fortifying Elixir Port should keep Saji alive. Nicely done.
Another swap thwarted. Saji sets up his team. Not enough crowd control, though. They do go for the leg sweep. They get peeled away by Peekaboo. Looks to be like enough. Peekaboo on the run. Caught in a Stormbolt. PPCat all over him. This could be dangerous. Absurge drops Earthen Wall Totem. It's going to soak up some hits. We see Jellybeans in the meantime securing crowd control on Saji and really trying to tear into Danny, but not finding any momentum. Absurge slowly but surely running out of mana. The cooldowns are being burned, and Pen and Paper are establishing a significant lead.
Another swap on Saji. Look at that pre-life cocoon. That is the only thing keeping him alive right here, right now. GOSU crew not going to be able to kill through it. Saji's still in a little trouble, though. He gets interrupted at low HP. Jellybeans with the play. Puts the first point on the board.
Unbelievable. Pen and Paper look like they have the game basically in their hands the entire time, but you should never count out the GOSU crew. Jellybeans, we've hyped this guy up over and over, and he's the one that finds the kill on Saji in the dying moments for the GOSU crew.
Yeah, it was a great play. Really got to call out Saji's excellent play up until he died at the end. But I really liked the preemptive Ring of Peace because he knows at any second, both of these melees that he has to fight against are very mobile. They can grappling hook all the way across the arena, get a between the eyes off, stun them, and then take him down. I really liked a lot of the talent choices, actually. One thing I want to call out is there's a very standard survival build that most people play, and you use this, your 100 talent is called Wildfire Infusion. And what it does is every time you throw your Wildfire Bomb, it changes its effect. So sometimes it'll be more kill command resets, sometimes it'll be extra bleed damage. But he's using a talent called Bird of Prey, and we don't see it that often in tournaments. And what that does is his 2-minute cooldown, every time he's going to Mongoose Bite, it's going to extend the duration of that. Plus, there's some Azerite traits he's running that all mixes into it. So Jellybeans has a lot less AoE pressure because of that, but his single target burst during that window is just extended longer and longer. So even if Saji were able to get away for just a second during that burst, he can still keep it up and keep the coordinated assault running.
And of course, if you are curious about any of the builds from these teams, you can use the Twitch extension to see that on the top left of your screen. Big thanks to our friends at Wowhead for providing the tooltips for that. But I think one of the big things that I was going to talk about in this series is at the start we came saying the GOSU crews had a week to prepare. Actually, it was Saji that had made the adaptation. You called it out during the cast, Elliot. They were the ones who switched over to Alliance, which is basically all we wanted to see from them last week, opening week, when these teams last met.
Yeah, the tricky part about playing against an Outlaw Rogue is they have the 1.5-minute blind, so there's really no good time to use your trinket. If you trinket out of the blind, a 1.5 minutes later, they can get a full blind sap. You're going to have to sit that, so quite often Relentless is the play. The problem is when you have Relentless, they can all-in you, but playing with that human racial, that every man for himself, you can break that stun and keep yourself alive. So overall, I feel like Alliance is the better choice, but still somehow, some way, the GOSU crew managed to find a way.
That was the play, but it wasn't enough to beat the move here. The GOSU crew able to win. Sid, I spent that entire game thinking Pen and Paper had it on lock. We were talking about how they might just make it through this lower bracket all the way to Method Orange. They end up losing. What do they have to do different in game 2?
I mean, Saji just needs to always almost overestimate the amount of damage. In that situation, he's thinking, okay, I ring a piece the swap, I should be good, I'm rolling away. Suddenly he's interrupted by Jellybeans and just dead. So he just needs to play a lot more careful in those situations, not underestimate the GOSU crew at any second. If he underestimates them, he will just get erased from the match. If Pen and Paper can clean that up, they could take this. They were winning on basically every front.
Basically, in these matchups, it just feels like the GOSU crew is losing the entire time until they're not. And then they just manage to find these sneaky kills on Pen and Paper, basically catching them by surprise. And more often than not, it's been on Saji. He's been doing an excellent job with the pre-ring of pieces. His team's been backing him up, but the GOSU crew somehow finds the damage they need to take him down in these burst windows. Pen and Paper just need to find a way to avoid that, and it seems like they should be walking away with the series.
As a Mistweaver Monk yourself, or someone who has been playing a fair bit of Mistweaver Monk yourself, what do you think you're most scared of here for Saji? Is it, like Sid say, just constantly going for those defensive plays, or do you also need to get offensive to help your team?
Well, Pen and Paper, they've been very conservative with the way they use Way of the Crane, that ability that basically empowers you as a Mistweaver Monk, making it so you do additional melee damage. Your Rising Sun kicks and Blackout kicks hit very hard, also heals up your team, but it costs a lot of mana. And it seems like Pen and Paper, they want to extend the game to a late point, so they're being very conservative with that cooldown. It's difficult as a Mistweaver Monk to really deal with Peekaboo on the Outlaw Rogue. You have the range stun, so these setups coming in from the GOSU crew can be exceptionally hard to predict. The best thing he can do is essentially what he's doing. Get the pre-ring of pieces, get the backup from his team, make sure he's away from his port, so when they are on top of him, he can port away to safety.
Yeah, and if we look at the matchup last week, actually, it's kind of funny. If we expected that in a grand match, you know, to be kind of like what we started with last week, but it started out with the Rogue Shadow Priest, and they lost pretty convincingly, right? And then they swapped on to what we call the Thug Cleave, the Hunter Rogue combo, and they started winning. But the next game they lost was on Hook Point. And so we're going to have to see if they can come back with this, and this is going to be the same comp. And it was a really quick match, too. 2 minutes long, ended very quickly. So maybe GOSU crew is actually playing into their hands with this pick.
I had a chance to sit down with the GOSU crew during the last series we saw Pen and Paper go up against Skillcapped EU, and they were kind of talking about the last time they met Pen and Paper. They had not really practiced the Outlaw Thug Cleave as much. They only had a couple games played going into that series. It was something they tried out sort of in desperation because WizK really wasn't an option for their team, but now they feel like they have this comp way more practice and prepared over the last few days, way more games under their belt, and that's why they're feeling more confident in this series.
I remember reading a quote from Swapsy in Inven, and he was basically saying, all of the GOSU crew are the best at their classes, but they're all one-tricks. That was his quote, saying that they are this. But, I mean, in a 4-man roster, you've got 3 people who are fantastic at the Survival Hunter, the Rogue, and the Shadow Priest. They've been rotating through those, and they always seem to find something that works against everyone, Sid.
Yeah, but it's going to be a pretty risky gamble. This composition that the GOSU crew are playing is pretty unorthodox in the meta. They just managed to make it work with synergy, these coordinated swaps to Saji, catching him off guard and just bursting him down. It's really their only window of opportunity. Otherwise, the clock is going to be run against them. Abster's running out of mana, slowly but surely burning their defensive line. And should Saji deflect every single opportunity swap to him, I think that Pen and Paper closes out.
It's going to be, I mean, it's a difficult task, even for Saji. If he can play the perfect game here, if he can mitigate, crush all of the setups from the GOSU crew, maybe, just maybe, Pen and Paper can do it. But I mean, as a Mistweaver, we saw him making preemptive plays on the blind. We saw him getting out those life cocoons, using his cooldowns. Wow, the GOSU crew seemingly too good as we enter hook point.
Yep, let's see how the GOSU crew decides to open up. Peekaboo looking for a sap. He finds it on Saji. Danny Center seems to be the target of choice as Jellybean and Peekaboo looking to build up initial pressure.
Good crowd control right now by the GOSU crew. Decent start. They're continuing the chain. Danny isolated here on game 2, dipping low. Trades out the death pack. He's still getting crushed by the GOSU crew. Danny could fall very early on. They tried to deny it, but the damage is still just unrelenting. Danny hangs on. Close call for Pen and Paper.
Yeah, Saji finally topping him off. GOSU group going hyper aggressive early on in the match. Saji just trying to stabilize, drops the Ring of Peace, but Danny's still just dying. Abster's been purging a lot in this exchange. That's why his mana's low. Peekaboo under fire, caught in the Stormbolt, has to pull back and pull out the Cloak of Shadows.
Despite Danny dipping dangerously low, the GOSU crew now are on the back foot with 2 members at low health and Abster's with no Gliders Medallion, but the crowd control is good. Onto 2 members of Pen and Paper. Danny once again isolated, doing his best to kite, but the killing spree from Peekaboo could close this out. Danny hangs on, very low on health. Saji needs to do something quick. Way of the crane, gets popped, he gets crowd control for a second on it. Looks like he's going to stabilize, and now he's moving in for Peekaboo. Peekaboo's getting crushed. Death grip on the grappling hook. Abster gets stunned. Peekaboo trinkets out in desperation to survive, but Saji is the one just destroying him. Abster still crowd control. Spearling Totem in the nick of time.
GOSU crew trades out everything to live there. That was beautifully done by Saji in that desperation situation, using the Way of the Crane, top off his team to get all the pressure that they needed.
Another preemptive Ring of Peace by Saji during this crowd control. This man is a mind reader, but Peekaboo continues the chain. The GOSU crew need a bit more damage to put Danny over the edge, and it doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. Both teams matched on mana, cooldowns evening out. It's anyone's game here in game number 2. Pen and Paper looking for some initiation. Saji behind the pillar getting ready to roll across. Looks like Pen and Paper want to block the attack first before making a move. Saji repositioning farther and farther away so that Jellybeans has to overextend if he wants crowd control. Line of sighting him to avoid it. Peekaboo initiating an attack. Blind attempt here. Danny once again isolated. PBCat trying to counter pressure, denying the kill. Nice intimidating shout. Pen and Paper looking to strike back. Peekaboo gets gripped into the fray. Dangerously low. Not much left. Abster barely picks him up. Peekaboo stays in it.
Yeah, Peekaboo living in execute range. Danny Center gets low as well, but Peekaboo's not out of it yet. Abster, he needs to get some heals. Caught into the stun. Saji in position for an incapacitate. Peekaboo in execute range. Can Pen and Paper take him down? Peekaboo, the miracle worker, once again with this kiting, might survive. Storm comes in. Abster still looking for the heals. Healing Surge finally gets landed, but it's not enough. Pen and Paper tie this series up.
Saji is 1 game closer to his revenge here, tying up the series 1-1. 2 teams that really are sticking to their guns here, Peekaboo quite literally. So I think when it comes down to this blind pick, Jared, we're not expecting either team to deviate.
I don't think so. I think this is a great matchup. I think both teams are playing incredibly well. It was back and forth that entire matchup. Excellent plays by Saji, but at the end, when it seemed like he was just taking so much damage constantly, Peekaboo never was above 30% health that entire time. And one of the things that helped out was that Way of the Crane by Saji. Yeah, Resto Shaman can heal a whole lot. Like, they can pump out tons of heals, you know, with those Riptides. They don't have to expose themselves for kicks. But then when you have that Way of the Crane Monk on top of it, just that little bit of extra damage was just too much to handle.
Man, this has been the story of this BlizzCon, right? Every single time you think, hey, GOSU crew, they've got something figured out here. They're playing for the long game, able to find kills at any moment. Then this time, Pen and Paper are the team that just consistently had so much pressure on Peekaboo. It looked like he just had no way to even get aggressive.
Saji was just so fierce in this matchup. He got a lot more aggressive. You could tell that maybe he's getting a bit angry at the GOSU crew's constant swaps to him, so he's jumping into the battle, dishing out a lot of damage and claiming a kill for his team here in Game 2. And Pen and Paper came here as just a group of friends and trying to do their best, but they're taking out legends and they're rewriting history as we speak.
I mean, they were so close to beating the GOSU crew at opening week. Now we see the series tied 1 apiece, and whereas normally we would say, hey, GOSU crew won Game 1, they have the advantage in the series, they have the momentum, this is a swing match. Here, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, it's going to be back and forth between these two teams throughout this entire series. Pen and Paper, they seem focused on this comp, and really, I don't think the GOSU crew has any better option than this Thug Cleave. These games are so incredibly close. It really comes down to just minor outplays that dictate the outcome of the match.
Now, one of the players I do want to talk about on Pen and Paper, we've talked a lot about Saji, once again in that game, coming in clutch with consistent preemptive life cocoons, preemptive ring of pieces as well to deny the setups from GOSU crew. But one of the key players in that game in keeping Danny Sinner alive was PPCat, right? We've talked about him in the last couple of years. He's been at the BlizzCon stage since 2016, and this guy just knocked out Blizzo playing the Warrior. But Warrior is only one of about 5 classes that we've seen this guy play at BlizzCon.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job, flexing between the arms and the Fury if he needs to, playing a bunch of different classes. So I think he's, like you're saying, Saji is definitely the highlight reel that we're seeing. Definitely all those ring of peace. We see him go offensive, we see him play defensive, lots of mind reading going on up on stage there. But again, PPCat is probably the center of the team in terms of the damage and the utility. Fury Warrior, we've talked about it before. They have an honor talent that when they use their Bloodthirst, it removes all snares on him. So they're going to have high uptime. They're going to constantly be on their target. One of the interesting trinket choices from last round, which a little bit curious of, is Peekaboo was not running the Veiled Eye, and Jellybean was. And I'm not sure if they expected that Jellybean was going to be trained down and Peekaboo wasn't, or just definitely relying on that rogues can be very slippery, that we saw excellent plays by Peekaboo using those grappling hooks defensively in the last couple of matches. So interesting choice. I don't know if Pika will have to build around like a more defensive build if he expects to be trained.
This was an interesting game actually coming out of GOSU crew, because at the start of every other game they played this matchup, they've basically been going after Saji, but here they actually opted to go for Danny Sinner, and they went with an all aggression, trying to kill through that Relentless. As a tournament player yourself, Elliot, do you think this was a case of them just trying to catch the Chinese team off guard?
Definitely could be. I think the GOSU crew is also trying to adapt to what Pen and Paper did. They went Alliance, they don't have a trinket, so all of a sudden the blinds into the saps, into the traps, they can commit all of that damage without worrying that Saji's going to be able to trinket out, get a life cocoon, and keep his team alive. They can try to commit to that all in, and that's one of the vulnerabilities of playing human with the everyman for himself. With the Relentless, is you don't have a trinket for those very scary moments. But Pen and Paper, to their credit, they kept it calm, cool, and collected, managed to survive the all-in, and ultimately won the game.
It was a very, very close call, though. So close to dying before
doesn't
that
get
life
closer than
cocoon.
that.
It really does not. And now we will be diving into Game 3 here. The two teams tied 1 apiece. Let's just look big picture for a second if you are just joining us right now. These two teams face elimination from BlizzCon. They're in the top 4. The winner will go to the lower bracket finals for an opportunity to meet Method Black, and then the winner of that series will play against the final boss. We'll play against Sea-Doo and Method Orange. Game 3 on Tiger's Peak. Let's see who takes the edge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, game number 3 here as both of these teams look to match point very shortly. Peekaboo sneaking across the map, looking for some initial crowd control. Jellybeans following suit. Saji gets sapped. This is a good start for the GOSU crew. Initiating on Danny. Jellybeans pulls the trigger on that coordinated assault, but Danny, perfect kiting out of line of sight. PPCat with a well-timed Stormbolt. Danny Sinner denies the early aggression, and now Pen and Paper have an opportunity.
Yeah, but a stun on Saji. He's not out of it. He trinkets. He gets out of line of sight with the portal. That was a nice setup coming in from the GOSU crew. Saji not messing around. Now into the full line. Danny Sinner, he didn't get topped off. He could still be in some trouble. I don't think this is follow-up sap, though, for this blind, so maybe not the best move coming in from the GOSU crew. I think Danny Sinner's going to be able to survive, Sid.
I really like this honor talent choice from Peekaboo with the dismantle. If you remove the Death Knight's weapon, he cannot use Death Strike, which is a very powerful healing attack the Death Knight can use, and he's utilizing that when they've got cross crowd control. Hexes on the Warrior, traps on the Mystery. In trouble though here, dipping below half health, trading powerful defenses to survive, and now reversing it onto Saji, where his portal is the question. He's quite far out of position, but actually walking into a freezing trap during the swap, which has now opened an opportunity for the GOSU crew to switch some momentum. PPCat denies the kill, disarming Peekaboo. Danny, effective kiting. Saji moves in, securing crowd control onto Absturge, but no damage just yet. Saji, he's just getting trained down. Pre-Ring of Peacing, the incoming attack. Saji knows it's coming, but how much can he do to stop it? Peekaboo's overextended, dangerously low, and he can't keep up the chase.
Yep, Peekaboo and Jellybeans, they need to be careful. Chasing down Saji behind the pillar. Absturge forced to trade out the Spirit Link Totem onto Peekaboo to keep him alive. The GOSU crew managed to stabilize. Both teams looking quite well right now in terms of health. Stun on Absturge just for crowd control. Once again, Peekaboo looking for a big setup onto Saji. He's caught into the stun. He has the way of the crane if he needs it. He has the life cocoon. Can he survive? He ports midfield. Big misplay from Saji. He manages to survive a little bit longer, but he does not have much mobility, forced to use the way of the crane.
We are starting to see Saji crack in this series, making a huge mistake there, and now he is completely exposed, and the GOSU crew are playing a lot more aggressively towards him. Now freezing trap on Saji. Peekaboo could grappling hook over for a swap after this. Keep your eyes on that. They go for the blind play instead, the safer route, gunning down for Danny's life, trying to catch Saji off guard. Danny dips low, trades, PPCat saves the day, but be enough. The GOSU crew have too much damage. Saji can't handle it. Danny hangs on, but it's not enough. GOSU crew go to match point.
That was a huge misplay at the end of that game. Danny Sinner line of sighting his healer in the crucial moment, and you cannot afford that mistake against the move.
You really can't. It's a really scary time when you are a Death Knight, you've hit Death Pact, you have that big healing absorb that you applied yourself, and in that moment, yes, you did get that burst of healing, and unfortunately, it was just that one moment where he swung left, Saji swung right around the pillar, and then that was it.
It's a heartbreaking moment for the team here. It was such a close game. All of these games have been so back and forth, and you just don't have a second to make that mistake. You cannot afford to make that mistake here. Now, the GOSU crew are one game away from getting their rematch against Method Black. That was another close series that we saw yesterday, actually, on the BlizzCon stage. GOSU crew's first time in this stage now. Pen and paper. We've talked about what a road. They hadn't won a series coming into this BlizzCon. China in 5 years had not won a series coming into BlizzCon. Now they find themselves in the top 4. Sid, what do they have to do to win this one? How do they win 2 games on the trot to take down the crew?
I mean, it's all on Saji's shoulders. If he makes any mistakes, his team is going to be going home. He needs to play absolutely flawlessly in the rest of this series if he wants to stay alive. And it's obvious that the GOSU crew know that, and they pressured him a lot more. They more frequently went after him, and he started to crack. It was happening too often and too frequently. He couldn't handle it, and then they mixed it up, went on to a different target, and caught him off guard again. So if the GOSU crew keep up this pressure on Saji, it's going to be very difficult for his team to find victory.
And this is really where the GOSU crew come alive, right? This is what we want to see from this squad. Constant swaps, putting teams under pressure, playing aggressive. This is what Peekaboo's all about, and the Outlaw specialization plays into his strength so well here.
Yeah, this is exactly what the GOSU crew need. They need a composition where they can hit multiple targets, get crowd control on all different types of people, and if they can do that, that's the type of strategy they really rely on as a team. They like to do hit and runs, make sure the enemy team is on their toes, second-guessing themselves at every moment, and you can see that's kind of what's happening to Pen and Paper. Normally, we don't see these mistakes from them. Saji not relaying his porting mid-map, forcing him to use the life cocoon in an inopportune moment, line of sighting each other. These are not the mistakes we normally see from this team of this caliber, but the GOSU crew, they've just been doing such a good job. Pen and Paper is kind of second-guessing themselves.
And, I mean, on the flip side, look at the GOSU crew right now. You can see them on your screens. These are players that live for the stage. I caught up with Jason or Peekaboo earlier after he won his series against Making a Movie, and even before we went on camera, this guy was buzzing. He was so hyped. He wanted the next series. He wants to get that series against Method Orange later, and he wants to win BlizzCon. These are players that live for the stage, Jared.
Yeah, and when we got to talk to him during opening week last week, one of the things that stood out is kind of asked every team, if there's one matchup or one point in the tournament that's the tipping point for you guys, is it your first match? Is it when you have to face one of your big rivals? Is it when it's like the NA battles? And they told us that they think that if they make top 3, they're taking the whole thing. So if they can take this round, puts them into the predictions that they set for themselves, that's got to feel great.
It's about momentum, right? Like, they feel like they can do it. They're getting closer every single time, and guess what? if they win this series, they're not leaving that stage. They're going to stay there for the next round and then for the grand finals. It's a great feeling to just sit on that stage, know your setup, have your peripherals there, and know it's just business as usual, consistently winning. As you would do at home on the ladder, the GOSU crew are very familiar with the winning feeling, and they just need one more game here to advance to meet Europe.
I think that's an important point to make for the rest of the tournament, is that Peekaboo is known for flashy, high-level, instant reaction time plays. He has to play 3 series back-to-back-to-back. Can he stay at that same level of play for that long of a period of time is going to be the real test for the GOSU crew should they take this match.
As someone that's competed yourself, Elliot, do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage to have the momentum, but at the cost of your energy and focus for all those series?
Well, it's definitely difficult. There's ups and downs to both situations, but being able to sit on the stage, especially when you have a crowd cheering you on with every single game you win, you can carry forward that momentum, that pressure. And these teams, they practice a lot. You know, sitting down and queuing World of Warcraft for 3 hours straight isn't that difficult for them. It's just in these high pressure games, they have to focus on a level they really have never focused on before. And it definitely can be difficult, but I think if there's a team that can rise to the occasion, it would be the GOSU crew.
And Peekaboo is a man that can do no wrong in the eyes of the crowd right now. He could lift a finger and the entire crowd would erupt in his name. Peekaboo has built up such a fan base for himself, but it's Pen and Paper who, for the first time, will deviate their composition. They have now bringing out the Moonkin, maybe going after similar kind of strategies to Skill Capped.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is we hyped up Saji a lot in these matches, but they're not using him. They're going to use Go on Resto Shaman, and we've seen him play before. Excellent Resto Shaman. Was kind of worried there for a second when they didn't lock in their comp instantly like we expected before, but this is interesting. We haven't seen this comp played in a very long time on stage, I don't believe, the Moonkin Death Knight. So I'm really curious how this is going to work out.
That's for sure. We definitely haven't seen this comp locked in for a very long time, but this is one of the surprises maybe Pen and Paper was saving. Being from a different region, normally the European teams and the North American teams, they can exchange information. They see what each other are playing, but when you're from a different region like China, they can hide this kind of information, this kind of composition. Perhaps it could work out well for the GOSU crew.
I think bringing in the Balanced Druid is a great move. Saji is obviously being pressured, and when everything rides on him to survive, one mistake, you lose the tournament. You bring in a Balanced Druid with extra support. Cyclone is an effective crowd control. That lets Saji breathe, and basically they've crafted a turtle all day composition. The Death Knight can kite effectively with Chains of Ice. The Balanced Druid can support the team with Cyclones, and then the Restoration Shaman is also very durable. So I think strategically, this is a smart move by Pen and Paper.
This is the interesting thing about the Chinese squad, because they have kind of class specialties, right? Like, Do is the Shaman player. He plays Elemental, he plays Enhancement, he plays Resto. Dan is Sinner the Death Knight, and then we see PB and Saji kind of like filling the gaps to a fantastic level. They are banking their hopes on Do, on that Restoration Shaman, PB on the Moonkin for the first time, and now Danis Sinner playing the Unholy Death Knight once again here. If they lose this series, or lose this game, they are out of the competition.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to put this in perspective for you, normally we don't see someone who plays a DPS class at such a high level also play a healer. If you're willing to bench Saji, one of the best healers we've seen in this tournament, for Do on that Resto Shaman, you got to be very confident in Do's abilities. Let's have to see if he can perform.
We have made it all the way here. This is the final game potentially for the Chinese team. If you believe in them, they need your energy. If you think the GOSU crew can finish it off here, let's hear a scream for them right now.
Saji is going to the bench, and Do will be substituted in. Saji can't handle the heat that the GOSU crew was cooking. Now it's going to be on Do's shoulders for the team here of Pen and Paper. GOSU crew move in with good crowd control. PBCat moving in position for Cyclones to peel forward. The team gets denied by Absturge, and facing Absturge as a Balanced Druid is so frustrating. Wind shear on the next follow-up, and Danny could fall very early in this match. Hanging on, gets knocked out of the earthen wall totem. Danny getting completely shredded by the GOSU crew. Great crowd control and initiation, but things are starting to cool off. Despite that great start, Pen and Paper stay alive.
We have to talk about Outlaw Rogue in that minute and a half blind. Do forced to shrink out of that blind. Now Blind's going to be up for Peekaboo before Doe has the trinket. And unfortunately, Danny Sinner, he used every single one of his defensive cooldowns in that exchange. This is not looking good for Pen and Paper.
Incarnation from PBCat as he's trying to lead the charge for his team, but not enough damage. Absurge blocks, and now Danny is in a lot of trouble. Will he be able to survive? His team is on match point and looking like they may just go home. Doe needs to do whatever he can. Cyclones are good, stalling out the fight for a couple of seconds, but Doe's caught in a freezing trap. It's a 3-on-2. PBCat's the only reason Danny is alive right now. Great support from PBCat. Peekaboo keeps the chain rolling. Danny gets stun locked. Good crowd control. Doe is now out. He can save the team. This could be a Spirit Link totem. Danny's dipping low, and Doe is trying to be greedy. Danny knocked out of the earthen wall. Doe gets away with the greedy moves. Pen and Paper stay alive.
Yeah, earthen wall totem is going to be enough for Doe and Danny Sinner, but still, Pen and Paper, no real cooldowns left to work with. PBCat has to do a good job. GOSU crew making a swap over onto Doe. No real damage to be found just yet. Good peels coming in from Danny Sinner to keep him alive, but they just seem to keep up the pressure. Full Cyclone on Absurge. Pen and Paper swinging this match in their favor.
Freezing trap secured. Peekaboo getting Cyclone. PBCat needs to get some crowd control going here. Danny could be in trouble, but he's getting interrupted over and over by the team of GOSU crew, removing that utility. Doe is in a hard situation here. What does he do? He's trying to be greedy. Is he going to get away with it again is the question. Looks like he will. Absurge's mana slowly but surely getting tapped. The pressure is starting to mount in favor of Pen and Paper. The GOSU crew initiate another attack towards Doe, but they're finding no damage off the back of it. If Pen and Paper just simply stay alive for another 2 minutes, this game will be going to them. The GOSU crew need to pull off something soon.
Yeah, and Doe, he still has his Spirit Link totem, has his trinket rotating back up. Pen and Paper in a decent spot. Full blind on Doe. What are the GOSU crew going to do? Big swap on Danny Sinner once again. He actually gets the pre-anti-magic shell up, but they are just shredding through it. Now a full trap on Doe. He's playing it very greedy. He has the Spirit Link totem, but we've seen the burst damage from the GOSU crew before. Peekaboo gets the Vanish Sap, and Doe still not trinketing. Finally lands a trinket Spirit Link totem to keep Danny alive.
All right, Doe played that patiently. He didn't want to get crowd controlled on his trinket, so he waited until the crowd control diminishing return, the final second that he could wait to do it, and Doe is definitely impressive here. The first time we've seen him healing for his team, trying to carry them here against the GOSU crew on match point in the lower bracket. If they lose this game, they are out of the competition, but Danny is just still in trouble. Peekaboo is unrelenting. Will he be able to hold on? PBCat looking for clones. They continue the interrupt. PBCat can't support, and Danny is in it still. Is he actually in this still? Peekaboo can't kill him. Danny holds on, barely, but Absurge snipes the kill. The GOSU crew get the rematch.
We have our top three. GOSU crew will play against Method Black. North America has 2 teams in the BlizzCon top 3 for 2018. But we have to give it up for China. We have to give it up for Pen and Paper because they have proven us something huge in this series.
Yeah, this team was a real contender this year. They came to this BlizzCon only wanting to win one series, making the top 4, making basically every single team in the tournament sweat against them, and it's interesting to see.
These guys have really left a mark on this tournament too. Not only have they won many games, knocked out many of the top teams, skill capped included, they've also been redefining the meta, bringing out the Death Knight here, but the man of the hour, the team that we will be all remembering, the GOSU crew will advance. They will have that rematch against Method Black, and I mean, maybe they can try and get some revenge of their own.
Oh, definitely. I gotta shout out, although we talk about Peekaboo and we talk about Jelly Beans and WizK a lot, Absurge, every single clone that he grounded kept them going the entire time. Such a great shaman. It's awesome to be able to see this on stage with so much pressure.
It's incredible. Just this entire team, like we hype up WizK one game, we hype up Peekaboo, we hype up Absurge, all of these guys. Jelly Beans with the knocks consistently causing trouble, causing ruckus for Pen and Paper. This is an absolute roster. This isn't just a team. This is a movement. This is a dynasty in the making right here. They've been growing throughout the year, building up their fan base. Peekaboo is the person that leads the charge, always coming in with the clutch plays. He needs to do it 2 more times if they are to win BlizzCon.
Yeah, and it will be a difficult road for the GOSU crew, but to their credit, they pick these pick these compositions that really highlight them as players. You have Peekaboo on the Rogue, you have Jellybeans on the Hunter, you have Absurge on the Shaman. These guys are all-star players. WizK on the roster, on the Shadow Priest, bringing in the Boomkin. They have the comps that they need. They just need to perform at a very high level, and so far they've been doing it and doing it in style.
If they can keep the momentum up, I would be scared. I would be quaking in my boots, and the next series they've got to play is against Method Black, the team that knocked them down to the lower bracket yesterday. But that series as well was incredibly close, Sid.
I mean, it was. We saw Method Black with their Holy Paladin Turbo really putting it to him, but it could have gone in the GOSU Crew's way in that series. So this is not a free win by any means for Method Black, and the GOSU Crew could make history here, the first time ever North American final if they pull it off.
I mean, Rich has been talking about it non-stop. I give him trouble for it, and I think as a European, I'm starting to get a little bit worried here. I said that maybe Method Black would be the team that could beat them, but after watching that performance from the GOSU Crew, I'm not so sure. Rich is down on the desk, on the stage with Jelly.
Yeah, as a European, you should probably be a little bit worried because we got some pretty good teams from the NA. So I'm here with Jelly, and Jelly, you've been up on this main stage at multiple BlizzCons. We got to bring up this Chinese squad that you just had that rematch against. What is it about them that has just made them such a tough opponent?
Oh man, they played unexpected comps, and the way they just synergize their CC together, they just do so well. And I've never seen a Cleave have so much pressure ever at this LAN.
I mean, we have just seen fantastic stuff coming out from that squad. Incredible to see history there, but there's some more history that could be made at this BlizzCon. We have never, across any game, seen a North America versus North American final. You were close to doing it last year. Now you have another chance. Do you think you can get through Method Black?
Yeah, let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
You've heard it from the man himself. He thinks he can do it. And what is it like after everything you guys have done this year? Let's be honest. You guys have formed a squad that has changed World of Warcraft esports already. I see the move in the chat over and over and over again. Look at everybody here cheering for you guys right now. What has this year been like for you on the GOSU Crew?
This is the best year competing I've ever had. Thank you all for the support. I appreciate it so much.
NA versus NA. Are we going to see it? We're going to head back to the desk one more time. Make some noise for the GOSU Crew.
Every interview this guy does, Jelly, I remember him from last year. He was a showstopper. He is the showstopper, eliminating Method Triforce last year. Now makes it into the top 3, one series away from that grand finals. He needs to stop Swapsy one more time if he is to secure that full NA finals.
Yeah, after Method Black went against the GOSU Crew the last time, they had some words. They feel like individually these guys are monsters, and they for sure will be a difficult opponent.
This is words that, I mean, words that we cannot say, and now we do. Let's have a look at it. Of course, yesterday we remember that Method Orange secured their place in the grand final. That's why we've been referring to them as that final boss in this double elimination. But all the eliminations, all the second chances are out the window now. We have 3 teams remaining. GOSU Crew against Method Black, winner advances to the grand final, loser eliminated, and then one best-of-7 finals between Method Orange and that winner to decide our 2018 BlizzCon championship.
It's absolutely unbelievable. The level of competition that we've seen every single region rise to this year is unparalleled, and all of these teams are so equally matched that any of them could take it. You definitely don't want to go anywhere.
The teams that we've seen knocked out of this competition before we even get to the final 3. Skill Capped, Tempo Storm, Botar, Looney, former BlizzCon champions, Chanimals, Super Frogs. It's been incredible. China's knocked out a lot of them. Now we have 3 teams remaining, 2 of them from the North America. GOSU Crew against Method Black. Our next series, Jared, looking at that one a little bit. Should I ask you to predict it? Is that mean? I'll ask you to predict it.
Mean.
Let's see.
I don't know. I think the GOSU Crew is on a roll. I have so much hope for them to win this round because, like, look at them on stage. Look at how energetic they are. They come back from, bouncing back from almost being defeated in the opening week by Pen and Paper. They've made their way through the lower bracket. Such a great crew. I'm so excited to see these guys play.
I think excitement to see them play is something we can all agree with. That will be our next series. Method Black from Europe, the last remaining European team going against the GOSU crew. The GOSU crew are on a roll. They eliminate China. A great fought series on both sides, but Pen and Paper will be going home. The GOSU crew advance, and now they need 2 more series if they are to make it to BlizzCon. GOSU crew against Method Black will be our next series. We are 2 series away from deciding our 2018 BlizzCon champion.